All right. This is Interactions 1, Reading Level 2. Page 87, 88, and 89. A short history of the changing family. As I read, I will read all of the words except for the words that are in parentheses. When you find the phrases in parentheses, understand those are the meanings of the words. I will not read those. I will leave those out. Paragraph A. Past definitions of a family. Like the community, the family is a social institution. Long ago, human beings lived in closely related groups. Each group had a common ancestor. But over a millennium, there have been two main types of families in the world, the extended form and the nuclear form. The extended family may include grandparents, parents, and children. In other words, relatives living in the same house or close together, on the same street or in the same area. In contrast, the nuclear family consists of only parents and their biological or adopted children. Because of the industrialization in the 19th century, the nuclear family became the most common family structure. Paragraph B. Kinds of families today. Today there are many different kinds of families around the globe. Some people live in traditional families, that is to say, a stay-at-home mom or mother, a working father, and their own biological children. Others live in two paycheck families, that is, both parents work outside the home. There are many single-parent families. In other words, only a mother or a father lives with the children. Still others have adoptive or foster families, or blended families. In other words, divorced or widowed men and women marry again and live with the children from their previous or earlier marriages. Some kids have step-parents, that is, mothers or fathers related to them by marriage instead of biology. In other families, some youngsters under the age of 18 have to take care of kids, either their own or their younger siblings. In different countries around the world, there are also same-sex partnerships, with or without children, childless marriages, unmarried live-in relationships, communal living groups, and so on. The early 20th century. What caused the structure of the family to change? Here is an example from the Western world. In the early 1900s in the United States, the divorce rate began to rise and the birth rate began to decline. In other words, couples stayed married for fewer years and they had fewer children. Women often chose to get an education and take jobs outside the home. Decades later, the same things began to occur in other industrialized countries and then developing countries of the world as well. Paragraph D. The 1930s and 40s. The decades of the 1930s and 1940s were difficult years in both industrialized and developing countries. Many families faced serious financial problems because of the heads of households lost their jobs. During World War II, millions of women had to take care of their homes and their children alone. Because so many men were at war, thousands of these war widows, that is to say, women whose husbands were away at war, had to go to work outside the home. Most women worked long hours at hard jobs. There weren't many perfect families. They had problems. After World War II. During the next decade, the situation changed in many places. There were fewer divorces, and people married at a younger age and had more children than in the previous generation. Men had enough money to support the family, so a mother seldom worked outside the home when her children were small. Children began living at home longer, that is, until an older age, usually after high school or even college. The traditional family was returning in the United States. It seemed, as in many other countries. Paragraph F, the end of the 20th century. In the years between 1960 or so and the end of the 20th century, however, there were many new changes in the structure of the family around the globe. From the 1960s to the 1990s, the divorce rate in the Western world greatly increased and the birth rate fell by half. The number of single-parent families rose, and the number of couples living together without marriage went up even more. At the end of the 20th and beginning of the 21st centuries, young adults of some economic classes started staying with their parents longer, marrying later, and having kids at an older age, if at all. Paragraph G, the family of the future. Many people today would like the traditional two-parent family back. That is to say, they want a man and a woman to marry for life. They also think that the man should support the family and the woman should stay home with the children. However, few families now fall into this category. In fact, if more women decide to have children on their own, the single-parent household may become more typical than the traditional family in many countries. Also, unmarried couples may decide to have more children, or they might take in foster children or adopt. And because people are staying single and living longer, there may be more one-person households in the future. On the other hand, some people believe similar events happen again and again in history. If this is true, people may go back to the traditional extended or nuclear family of the past. Others think that the only certainty in history is change. In other words, the structure of the future, family could begin to change faster and faster and in more ways.